guys, so today for our mobility video, we're going to do a mobility 101. In front of me is a lot of the common mobility equipment that you see in a typical gym setting. So we're going to go through each one. Basically, when you're deciding on what equipment to use, it's just based on the size of the muscle, the size of the person, and the intensity that you're trying to use when you're doing your releases. So starting left to right, we have our foam rollers. So foam rollers come in a lot of different shapes and sizes. In the last couple of years, there's been a lot more manufacturers bringing out foam rollers. It can go from a very soft type of material to a hard plastic like a PVC pipe. So basically, most people when they start using a foam roller, start with some of the softer material and then move on to something a little bit more intense like the hard plastic. Something here like the rumble roller has spokes coming out or spikes coming out. What this does is it just gets a little bit more intensely into some of the knots in the muscle. So some people have a hard time tolerating something like this with their body weight. It can be a little bit more intense. Next, I have the lacrosse ball and the supernova. These ones are generally used for smaller muscle groups. Difference between the lacrosse ball and the supernova is literally on the size of the ball. So the lacrosse ball is really great because it's inexpensive. It's like $4, and you can get into a lot of the small muscle groups, like the muscles in the rotator cuff, the pec, some of the stabilizers in the hip, like the piriformis. For people who are a little bit bigger, or if they find the lacrosse ball a little bit more challenging, they may prefer something like a supernova that's just a little bit bigger to allow them to get into those crevices within their body. Okay, next we have the mobility bands. These are different strengths depending on the color, and it depends on who manufactures to be what color means what. But often when you're using a mobility band, it's for a distraction or traction-like technique, which works on the joint itself. What the distraction does is it creates a little bit of space within the joint that allows the bones within the joint that make up the joint to move a little bit better. So these ones are generally we use more of the bigger intensity, so the green bands, because it's just easier and our bodies are bigger to relax some of the muscles around the joint. Next up, we got the stick. So the stick in terms of intensity on the spectrum is on the lighter side, because with the foam rollers and the lacrosse balls, we use our body weight to apply pressure to different areas. With the stick, you're using your upper body strength. You want to think about the stick as kind of like a rolling pin for your muscles. People often use it for the quads or for the calves, and you press down to apply pressure on the muscle. Finally, we have the kettlebell, which is a little bit more abstract. It's not as commonly seen as a release tool, but this applies a lot of pressure, so it's like a more intense lacrosse ball. You can get in, apply a little bit more pressure. Also, the kettlebell is elevated off the ground where the handle is, so it allows you to kind of lean on top of it if you're having trouble or having any pinching, particularly with the shoulder, getting in with the lacrosse ball. Okay, so here's the spectrum of mobility equipment. The best thing you can do is try each one out and see how it feels. So that's it for the video for this week. Check out the blog, the link below, and we'll see you next week.